Okay, so this week's reading from Digital Storytelling Textbook, Chapter 10, focuses on transmedia storytelling. And what I like about this chapter is, first of all of the examples that the author gives us of different kinds of transmedia storytelling that that maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe you have heard of and that you've already been watching. And I'm not going to be going over those examples, but I highly encourage you to make sure that you read the entire chapter. Those examples are going to really start helping you to get ready for and thinking about your final project. But I am going to draw your attention to a couple of images that are featured in the chapter. First of all, there's this one, and you'll see that this transmedia, this graph of what transmedia looks like, this vector graph, includes new media, the internet and wireless, traditional media, film, TV, radio, and print, and also physical world, real life events. Again, a lot of times when we think about technology, we kind of default to just saying like computers and online, the internet. And we need to remember that technology comes in many different forms. And again, back to McLuhan, anything that is an extension of our physical bodies is in itself a kind of technology. And that includes things that happen in print, traditional media, and also in the physical world, real life events. So on page 163, we have her bullet list of defining how to define the transmedia approach. And I think that this is a really helpful definition so you can wrap your mind around what transmedia means. So first of all, the project in question exists over more than one single medium, usually 3 or more. And we see that in the Guild. We have the web series, which is its primary spot. Then also print. We have the comic books that they put out, and then also the physical world, real life events. They also have several online components that I'm going to be showing you here in a couple of minutes, but not at this moment. And that's important because it also needs to at least be partially interactive. And I'm going to be showing you some examples of that too, about how the Guild integrates user interactivity. So it's not just a one-way stream like it is with, say, a book, where you pick up a book but you don't necessarily get any interaction with the author, him or herself. With transmedia series, you have to have user interactivity. The users have to be integrated in some way. So thirdly, the different components are used to expand the core narrative in some way. In other words, you don't just have what's being pushed out by the writer, director, and producers as the entire narrative. That the comment section, that the Pinterest boards, that the Reddit feeds, whatever, the Reddit threads, are actually become part of your experience of the transmedia project. So, fourthly, the components need to be closely integrated. That makes sense. Fifthly, the story contains at least one public point of entry, which is called the rabbit hole. You're going to want to pay attention to this particular term, the rabbit hole. In the Guild, the rabbit hole is the web series, because it's the web series that first gets you immersed and interested in the entire world of the Guild. And so the other components, they need you to have already watched the web series in order for you to be interested in them. You notice that the comic book that we read was a prequel to the web series. And also, you're not going to go to a convention to meet the actors unless you've already seen the web series. The web series is the rabbit hole. It's what gets you sucked in first, and it's completely public. It's on YouTube. It's not behind some sort of firewall where you have to have special entry to it. And so that's important also for transmedia. You have to be able to suck them in some way that is completely free and accessible to all users. Then the next component is that the story contains spaces that are designed to encourage members of the audience to contribute content. These are called cheese holes. And the cheese holes are places where you actually they're called cheese holes because it's where you poke holes in the story or ask questions and ask your participants to participate, to fill in that hole. And it helps to increase interaction. So it goes back to point 2. It helps to increase interaction with your fans and also keeps people interested in developing the story. So also, then the last point is that oftentimes transmedia narratives include some sort of gaming element. Now, it's important not to confuse gaming element with actual gaming. So it's not like, with the Guild, they didn't actually develop a game that you can play to go along, similar to the World of Warcraft or what they call the game within the narrative. They didn't develop anything like that, but there are gaming elements. You can participate, you can do small interactive things that will be integrated into the narrative. If you're chosen to win, you can win prizes, things like that. That would be called a gaming element. Just anything where there's competition and then there's some sort of prize at the end, whether it be a shout out of your name or you actually get something physical in return for your efforts. So that is an important thing to draw your attention to on page 163 that helps to explain this graph here. The integrated media comprises a lot of different things, and when we're talking about transmedia narratives, it can have any of these components. It doesn't just need to be up here on the internet wireless with computers. Okay, so here we have a slide of, again, the different options of the transmedia. Oh, and I forgot to mention this earlier. We have the cast members that do their appearances at conventions and interact with the fans. We also have the comic book. And then finally, we have the produced music videos. And I highly encourage you to go watch the music videos. This particular one, Do You Want to Date My Avatar? I find absolutely hilarious. So go check them out and think about how the production values of a music video are very different from and follow a different aesthetic than the production values that they try to adhere to in the web series. Again, all these kinds of editing and cinematography are following different kinds of aesthetic, cinematographic, and editing rules depending on which genre they're speaking to. And so the music videos are much glossier. The production value is a lot higher than the transmedia web series because web series are supposed to have a certain look. They're supposed to be at least partially shot on a webcam, and a webcam has a very different kind of language that it follows with the jump cuts. Oh, and by the way, a lot of you are using jump cuts wrong in your analyses and your storyboards. And so do make sure that you go back and review jump cuts, because jump cut does not refer to just any old cut. It refers to a specific type of elliptical editing. And so do make sure that you go back and view that, because jump cuts have become very popular with web series that are shot on webcams, because it's a way of cutting out portions of the video that you dislike. But then, of course, the camera angle doesn't change at all. And we've become used to it. We've actually become sort of fed up with it because the jump cuts are so overused in web series that are shot on webcams. And they don't follow the kind of classic continuity editing rules that we're also studying, that we're more familiar with, and that bespeak a higher production value that we see in films and videos. So if you are using jump cut all the time to refer to any cut, period, then you're doing it wrong. So go back and review the definition, listen to what I just said, review my videos, and make sure that you're using it correctly. Now, here is another, this is a more involved version of the graphic that is included in our textbook in this chapter on page 167. And again, I like this graphic a lot because it helps to make visual some of the different components that are really imperative when working with the transmedia narrative. So you have to have a story, and the story has to have strength, depth, and authorial control. And you can see down here we get this little extra information that's not included in our book, but the story equals, and again, this is just repeating what's up here, but it's just calling it out twice so that you really emphasizes what is the importance of the story. Because if there's not a good story, nobody's going to pay any attention. You also need something that seems real world and actually it goes out into the real world. You can see this down here. It says real world, extent to which story experience pervades real locations, times, real people, and events. And this is the importance of the actors going to the conventions. It's also the importance in season number 5 that we watched for this week of having all of those cameos. I mean, if you are interested in the science fiction world or the gaming world or the web series world or science fiction, TV world, there was, I believe, over 60 cameos in season 5. And again, that shows the power and the persuasiveness of that has been gained over the 5 seasons with the Guild, because they became famous enough that they were able to entice all of these real world celebrities to participate and be a part of the production of season 5. Then we have participation, where users get to contribute, change, and co-create. And here again, ability of audience to change or contribute to the story experience. So this is really important in the transmedia storytelling. You have to plan for what your fans are going to be able to do in order to feel as part of the production. And then finally, gaming. The audience has a goal. There's maybe use of puzzles or game mechanics where you get trophies. There are levels, there are leaderboards, etc. And this is all really characteristic of transmedia. It's something that we've become quite used to. A lot of TV series now will, if you're watching it live, they want to encourage you to watch it live instead of DVRing it or watching it on Netflix or Amazon later, by having game elements where you can actually get on your smartphone and participate and win something right then in the moment. So here we see a cheese hole from the Guild. Again, on the annotations, what game is Blades referencing here? Post in the comments. Kim, the producer, didn't know when she read the script. And then we've got, the smiley face with the tongue sticking out. This is something really interesting, because now that we're watching the web series several years after it premiered, we don't get to participate in these games. And this is something that shows the ephemerality of the of transmedia, in that if you're there in the beginning when it starts, then you really get to enjoy a lot of the gaming options. Now that we're watching it several years later, we can post all we want in the comments, and we're not going to be part of a conversation. And I think this is one of the drawbacks of transmedia series, is that if you don't catch it right at that time, then you have missed a portion of the actual narrative, because you weren't actually able to participate along with other people. We can scroll back down through the comments and read what people said, but we don't actually get to, in real time, enjoy watching this portion of the narrative come out, where the fans are contributing by actually making guesses and getting it right or getting it wrong, and then teasing each other and all of that. That portion of the party we have missed. And so I understand completely why web series and transmedia series do this, because in our day and age, when you can watch whatever you want, whenever you want, they're trying to get eyes on their actual project that as it comes out. They can't wait 5 years or 10 years until people discover it. And so the gaming element really helps to draw people in. It also then helps in the future to create a sense of, you've missed the party, or dissatisfaction with the product because the game is over. And so there are pluses and there are minuses. The pluses are mostly come in for the production crew and the fans that are doing it at the time that it comes out. But if you don't know about the series when it comes out and you come in later, then you've missed out on a portion. All right, that's the end of this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.